I guess the story so far, last turn, this is the third quarter of the fourth deck of the game. Last round, whatever, the second quarter, everything was kind of progressing in sort of a reparative type state. A lot of countries had issues going forward, but then an event was called up, it's War of the Coalition or whatever, Grand Coalition, which apparently is really kind of the 7 Years' War card, I guess. I thought it was Napoleonic by the name, because I've never heard of the 7 Years' War having the Grand Coalition. But anyway, now we're starting to see revolutionary stuff, both French and American showing up. So I'm expecting there will be some kind of similar card like that to cause a general war for the Napoleonic Wars. Now, what I find weird is the Napoleonic Wars do feel like a different sort of thing, and that's why I thought this Grand Coalition applied to that. The kind of, hey, everybody has to be involved, that applied, I don't feel really is the case as anything terribly special for 7 Years' War, War of Austrian Succession, which were both really the same thing. It was just a matter of England switching side between Austria and Prussia, and France. You know, basically there were two alliances, England and France, for this century, or two major foci, and you know, there was just a swap of alliances. Is basically all that was the difference between the two wars, as far as my take on it is, at least. I mean, politically there were differences, because Maria Theresa was, you know, the Austrian leader by the time of the 7 Years' War. There was no question of that. You weren't going to replace her or whatever. But the net effect was Silesia throughout the two of them, and it was just, you know, everything else was kind of secondary. At least, you know, not so much to England and France. They were probably more excited about Hanover and about the New World than they were about what actually happened with Silesia. But that's the center point of it all. Anyhow, it didn't feel like, other than the fact that people call the 7 Years' War the First World War or whatever, which is kind of bullshit, because there were earlier wars that covered a great deal of the world. Yeah, it was somewhat similar, but I mean, there are certain special cases that showed a greater investment in North America, in India, etc. But there was some investment in the prior wars. I mean, you can certainly look at some of the wars between England and Spain as being kind of world wars, as much as the French and English conflicts. And I don't know. Anyway, yes, most countries were drawn into the sequence of wars, but most of the countries had been drawn in before. Anyway, I went into all this before, so why am I doing it now? No good reason. So that card basically triggered towards the very end of the turn. France picked it as sort of, I think, the last event to be picked, or second to last event. And it just triggered, you know, a whole sequence of wars. Everybody was involved in the wars. Turkey and Spain, well, Turkey and Spain were revolutionary countries. Turkey and Poland. Poland became the two centers of the coalitions. And most people were anti-Turk, because the Turks were ahead at that point. They're no longer. The 7 Years' War card caused scoring imbalances that gave a lot of points to the Austrians. And you'll see the Austrians are actually in pretty good shape for the Napoleonic Wars, except there's something special, which is that they can't score for their own home country. So basically, every country that has one of these blinkers for the Napoleonic Wars already set up, they will not be able to score for their own capital area. There's also something weird that if that war is triggered and the war continues and there's there's extra victory points for occupying someone's capital, but you can only do that and get points for it if you don't conclude the war, which is a weird sort of situation. We're going to see how that works. I'm expecting that the whole war has to happen in the first half of this deck. But I'm not positive, because the game only goes to 1821. But it's just like, for the Napoleonic Wars to make sense, they have to start earlier and end up going for 2 turns instead of, or 2 rounds of cards instead of 1. Anyway, the net effect of it all was pretty damn limited, actually. Spain conquered, well, maybe not that limited here. Spain conquered Portugal. England grabbed a couple of the ports here from Spain. They went with a status quo post-bellum. Poland and Turkey, no gains, no losses. France was pursuing a war over here with, what, Mali? And there's a truce there. There's truces all over the board, but those aren't going to affect if there's another card like that last one. Anyway, what my feeling is that cards like that last one, the Grand Coalition card or whatever, actually feel like they belong in more eras throughout the game. And that's kind of, I guess, the point that I was trying to reach towards, is that, okay, not real early in the game, but when you get to the 30 Years' War, you have a lot of powers that are kind of drawn into that. Now, granted, most of those powers actually aren't players. Things like the Dutch were drawn in, the Danes, the Swedes. It's going to depend on the scenario how to craft this correctly, because you don't want to force England in or whatever, but there should be a list of countries that have to be involved, and they should have to fight and whatever. Of course, when we see what the wars actually resolve as, Poland marched down to here and then retreated. That's about all that happened. Where else? Well, the English did a landing here and fought, and the Spanish moved into Portugal and fought and conquered some stuff. But, there wasn't anything that looks like the 7 Years' War to me, just some little stuff around the edges, right? Okay, first of all, it wasn't the 7 Years' War because it wasn't centered on, the areas that were important for the victory point spaces. Those were all pretty much locked in because Austria was passed already before this happened. But where the center of the war was against the revolutionary ideology as exemplified, I guess, by Turkey. Whereas Spain, who also has the same nationalist revolutionary ideology, was anti-Turk. So, again, what's going on here? It felt more like a religious crusade than anything else, with England taking the role that France historically did, kind of allying with the Turks, but I don't know. Anyway, very little came of it. Like most wars in this game, it doesn't represent, it doesn't seem to represent a lot of what happens in the war. It seems to more represent what the outcomes are going to be, right? Which may be enough for some people. It really may be. I don't know. But we'll see, again, if the Napoleonic Wars takes a shift, if they change the nature of warfare completely. It would have to change the rules completely to make any sense. The other odd thing was there was a levy en masse card that came up last round, and that again sounds like a Napoleonic thing. I guess it's not, because it was in that earlier deck, pre-revolutionary era. Anyway, the one thing the war did was, because the nations didn't have very many cubes, etc., they got pushed even further. Not really. They did get additional cubes. It depends on the country. Like Turkey got nothing, right? Poland got a couple because they're the ones who played the card for the war, I think, actually. I thought it was France for a moment. No, I think France did something else. The later you went, the more cubes you got for entering the war late. I may have misinterpreted that. It may have been that everybody gets their cubes based on the size of the enemy coalition or whatever, in which case maybe things would have turned out differently. I'm not sure. England, in particular, wanted to join the other side from where everybody else was. Poland, France, Spain had all joined a coalition against Turkey. That means that England could get 3 military cubes by attacking that coalition, and they had reasons to want to fight against Spain. They were bad reasons. They lost. But when you looked at like France, they had an option. They would have gotten a cube no matter which side they went on. Spain could have gotten 2 cubes by joining the Turks, but they were essentially anti-Turkish. They wanted to make gains here or here if possible. They didn't realize the English were going to come in against them. Plus, actually, they probably were just going to pad their own internal issues. And it kind of ignore the war was their hope. France basically ignored the war and went to war with Mali. But England and Spain basically conducted the main focus of the war. The Poles came marching down here. It did nothing. Now Poland on their turn grabbed Kaffa, which got them, and they haven't scored it yet, Black Sea ports. They have 4 more ports, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's owner vassalize, and so they get 4 points. Turkey has lost the lead and is now actually in 3rd place after this card. Gain 1 light ship or 2 galleys in the Black Sea and a claim in an area adjacent to it. 1 light ship or 2 galleys. I already have a galley fleet there, so I gotta put this here. And we get a claim adjacent to the Black Sea. Now this is painful because I don't know what the fuck we want. There's a 3, that's a 4. I hope I've done 3B. Yeah, I've done 3B. Yeah, so I don't know where I'd want to claim. I don't. Which means, what the hell, you know. Did I pull a claim marker? Yeah, I got one here. I could put another claim against the Turks, which is of some value. That's probably more appealing than anything else. I'll put it down here. I don't know. It's not really wise. Like, I mean, I can conquer areas that I don't have claim to. But it's not as valuable. We'll grab a claim to Constantinople. Russia always wanted one. Poland would too. Okay. So that's that. I haven't checked. I actually thought I had checked all of them, and then I remembered this, and obviously I hadn't checked all of them, but I think I actually checked everything but the Poles for some reason. Maybe because, I don't know, they were last in order there. But yeah, we're in a position where I'm expecting there to be more desires, more triggers for a similar kind of grand war involving everyone. Now that I saw what that mechanism is like, that mechanism is not enough to justify, Napoleon's invasion of Russia. It's not going to change it, because the way the wars work, there's just going to be like maybe a fight or two here and some sieges and stuff, and that's it. The whole invasion of Russia is as far as I can see, going to be represented by maybe adding, some territories in the Rhineland or whatever. However, there is the bonus points for for occupying an enemy capital. You can't actually take over an enemy capital for the most part. Like, even with me modifying the rules, that enemy would cease to exist if you do that. So you wouldn't be able to be occupying it. So the only way you can get those 5 prestige points that come from the power play or power struggle are to maintain a state of war between your country and another one while you occupy their capital. Now, historically, if you look at, what happened, right? Napoleon kind of... So Napoleon defeated both Austria and Prussia a couple of times each, right, during the Napoleonic Wars. And you could kind of say at certain points, he sort of had them as client states, before the invasion of Russia, for example. Now, is that what is meant by this occupation of the capitals? I don't know. But I just cannot see that the amount of cubes, unless it gives a humongous amount of cubes to somebody, I don't see that the amount of cubes is going to be sufficient to fuel an invasion of Russia. And of course, since Russia's not on the board, it's not allowable anyway. That's the thing. I take away this Eastern board, and you're at the base game, and you're still going to do the Napoleonic Wars, but there's no Russia to invade. How do you represent that? Well, the game kind of might do it kind of naturally by, I don't know, you just don't go that way. I have no idea. I don't even know what to say about the way the and we still haven't seen. Maybe that card does magical things. I wasn't expecting the last card. I know I'm harping on this, but yeah, there's a lot this game just doesn't do correctly. What you just got is why I shouldn't record sort of to the point type things like the summation when I'm overly tired. Holy shit, man. I know what I did. I remember it. But I really kind of failed to tell you what the hell is going on. But to be fair, I did tell you what most of the last video was about, which is really that the dissonances that the game has are large enough that it's really kind of actually stepping in the way of the story. I'm becoming more and more focused on, Jesus, I can't believe this shit, and not really able to speak to the story. And the truth of the matter is, because of the Euro nature of it, yeah, there's a story here, there's no question. But, and most Euros don't have much of a story, but because of the subject matter here, there is a story. However, both getting in the weeds of the kinds of decisions that you're having to make and the pulsing issues and whatnot, and these incongruous situations where you're just like, I'm not seeing big hunks of the story. They're being abstracted away. Things like, say, the invasion of Russia. They're being abstracted away completely. How can I believe this game? How can I believe what it's showing me, right? It's showing me, you know, I can believe the map at the beginning and end of, you know, at the turn switchover. But the story that it gives me in between to tell me how we got from point A to point B at the beginning and end of a turn is just not acceptable, right? And that's very similar, you know, I'm trying to think of the game, Struggle of Empires, the Martin Wallace game, not Twilight Struggle, Imperial Struggle here, the follow-up to Twilight Struggle. These are games where you're like, you know, placing things to gain advantages and all that kind of stuff, but you're not really conducting operations in the way that you would think you were. And it's very, very, very sad when I see something along those lines. I would, you know, to me, that's not why I'm playing a war game, right? It might even, not this one, but a game might even achieve a better sort of historical accuracy at the abstraction level that it's at by taking those simple, by taking those kind of choices to hide a lot of what's going on. But again, that's not why I'm there. I'm there for a deep story into what's going on. And I feel like both the board game and computer game give you that. The computer game, it's kind of hard to follow, right? Like the board game, you have your time, you get to examine the board, see what's happening, stop it at discrete points in time. Now, obviously, there's an abstraction in every board game, but, you know, I've got these little jumps, and in between each jump, I kind of get what's happening. The only real weird abstraction in the EU board game is, or to me, is that they collect all of the sort of economic stuff into this one spreadsheet type phase where you're calculating out everything you have, you make a bunch of rolls, and like all your colonies get established at that time, etc. You pay for them, you check, they're established, right? It's not like you're paying and you're slowly setting it up and building it, right? The RTS actually handles that better by watching something build, and somebody could interfere with that and all kind of shit like that. I'm used to that though, right? I'm used to the idea, and they're only 5-year turns, so you're not making huge jumps in any given time. However, with the RTS, although it probably presents a more realistic view of what's going on in the computer games, the fact that you're focused on one country, you're not really, first of all, it's on the computer, so you're not able to like zoom in on the board all over the place in quite the same way. It's just, you know, technically you can do it, but you're not looking at the whole board and able to see it in the same way that you can see things with a physical board. And it's just, you know, it's like, well, I'm either at this sort of 1,000-foot that shows me everything, but I can see and understand almost nothing except maybe basic borders if I click the right filters on it. Or, boom, I'm like this, and I can see more stuff happening. And it's not like it's not on a scroll wheel or anything. It's just there's like there's like these discrete points where things become visible, right? And like you're only able to see a small part of the board if anything's visible at all. How is that different from a board game? You know, with a board game, I can drink the whole thing in. My eyes can focus in on an area just like the computer game can, but somehow all that other stuff, it's still peripheral. I can still see it and I can still picture it in the same way. And it's just got to do with, you know, the way the technology interacts, at least with my brain, but I think with brains in general, where you're never able to get the whole picture and the zoom-ins at sort of the same time. You know, you've always got everything there, when you're playing with a physical board game. Anyway, I only came up to babble that because here it is, like, I don't know, like 7 p.m. now. I failed in my attempt to stay awake. I stayed until like 1 p.m. and then I just kind of passed out. And I was obviously too tired, but sometimes I can force myself through, especially through the magic of an addiction. But Raid was done, and my other addictions that are in play right now, well, they have their own limitations. Let's just say that. Okay, so I started the new turn. This is part of what's wrong with me doing things when I'm tired. I started the new turn and started making my decisions with the Austrians. And among them, you know, the plans for what I'm getting, what cards I'm taking. But then I realized, fuck, man. Of course I forgot to do stuff. Just not used to the game that much anymore. You know, usually I can walk away from a game for a week or so. A traditional style war game, whatever. Something that's this big. The Euro nature of this, the differences of the rules, and this might apply for some of the other games that aren't at all Euros, you know, that have very, very different types of systems. Things like Total or Krieg over there. It's just very, very easy for me to fucking forget my patterns that I have to do because they're different. Okay, so discard down. See, this isn't right. Somewhere or another. Oh, it's the end of age routine, I'm thinking. Yeah, I was going to say somewhere I'm thinking there's the capability to like discard some of these or something. No, okay, we're good. All right, so I looked through my options and I've decided, you know what? Chicken butt. Yeah. Sorry, I never used to say that on the videos, but now I have no one to say it to anymore. And it's like a lot of things, like I just end up saying more things now. But Austria is in pretty good shape. They're the one person who didn't get involved in the 7 Years' War. How'd that happen? And if that, because that's the case, and Turkey is in really bad shape, I decided go for dominate the Balkans, Adriatic ports. I actually have a shot at pressing a war against Turkey. Yeah, my financials aren't that great. I don't have an army in place yet. But Turkey's in a lot of trouble. Less cubes, more money, but more debt too. Probably isn't too far apart. And a lot of chaos in their kingdom. The only thing is, it's going to be hard to find an ally who can help me. So the only player who can help me against Turkey would be England, and they're probably not willing. But I think I've got a good shot. Now, you might say, well, this is kind of silly, because you're in the lead already. Yeah, but it's a close lead, and Poland's up there too, and Poland can't do anything about that. But Poland could do something about Austria. It has done very well on their missions. They've got only 2 remaining for the rest of the game. House of Vasa is one of them. Great. All right, well, we'll prepare for that, I guess. But the other one is Break the Rus, which I can't possibly succeed in. Which is too bad. It's worth 6 points. I could really use those points. Yeah, but nope. I'm looking at Poland's situation. They don't have a lot of cubes. Their money situation isn't great. Their cubes are definitely not in the military. I don't think I'm going to pursue either an attack on Austria or an attack on Sweden. So instead I drew a bunch of admin cards looking to try to get the development card, which allows me to change religions a little bit more easily. I got a Man of the Church, which will help. Of course, I might want to just grab the Papal, since nobody else seems to be doing anything about it. My other cards don't help a hell of a lot. I got a Central Authority that'll help me with stability, but I'm really going to need my military to start quelling some of this unrest, because there's no easy way to deal with that. And did I get a good year? Good year's help with that. Oh, God. My nose is cloggy. No, I got harbor refugees, which I might use for an advisor. I kept it because if I lose a king, I kind of want... I've just learned to keep cards, you know, as opposed to at one point where I was like, oh boy, I can't afford to keep cards and I can't afford to have advisors. And that may have actually been the case, right? Monetarily, the countries might not have been able to deal with things, at least for the first couple turns of the game. I certainly invested in cards by following this kind of strategy early in the game. But once your kingdoms, empires, whatever, get to a certain size, they can afford to hold the cards, and you kind of can't afford not to, which is to say, you need to be able to drop a ruler in when you lose one. You don't want to be left with interregnum, and you definitely want advisors and such not. So picking them up isn't that bad a thing. I did not get an advisor. I should have perhaps drawn for a military advisor, because I have like 2 military cards, neither of which is an advisor. But, you know, but the $2 per card seems like almost nothing. Turk's now able to go to war with Austria, and more importantly, maybe Austria is able to go to war with them. They didn't hear anything, but feel free to take the control of the Danube card again. Basically, the other cards are not possible. Control of Barbary Coast is still desirable for me. I have a couple of subjugates. I have 3 of them in my hand. Wow, what the fuck. But I don't have the cubes to even do that, probably. Because I have a marriage card, but it's going to cost like a couple of cubes to get a marriage in there one way or another, however it happens. And I'm just not going to have that. Yeah, I could reorganize, but I need to deal with the unrest. And so I drew nothing but admin cards. I like them all. I may be running too many cards at this point, but if I hold an admin card for cubes next turn, that gets me to, what, 1 card over. And then, I don't know. Royal Marriage for 1 is not a bad deal. I can't go from Royal Marriage to Subjugate. I have to get it to... I have to get it up to Alliance, which is not trivial, but you know, I can work my way towards that. I'll probably be shifting a couple of cubes over though, so I may have bought an extra card that I don't need. Yeah, my money's not fantastic, but it's good enough. On the other hand, it's one of those countries with a ton of different goals that they haven't met. That's why they're not doing very well, right? I kept the 2 that I have been keeping. I figure I've got a chance at doing something on the Guinean coast. You know, I've already built work up there. Maybe I can do something. Imperial border conflict, all I really need is Savoy for that. Savoy is hard, but maybe something will break loose. The Italian ambitions looks too hard. My hand, I don't have all those subjugates I used to have. I also don't have any advisors in it. So I picked a couple of admin cards because I need an admin. Well, I got this man of the church. I might use this as the advisor, even though it's very useful for, you know, converting religion or whatever. Right now my religious situation is pretty good, so that might be my best move. Instead of drawing a 3rd one of those, I drew one of these in hopes of getting a subjugate. I don't know that one person is hoarding 3 of the cards. I don't know how many there are, but my goal with this was to try to get something that can start getting me into that marriage situation. Well, but Savoy is impossible, right? I need to go to war with Spain for me to get Savoy. I could do that. However, I'm low on cubes. I don't have a lot of unrest, but I have some. Well, 1. But Spain's in a lot of trouble. So maybe I still will. Do I have a claim on them? Yes, I have a claim here. So I could go in there, and Burgundy's a possible ally to Spain. That I could declare war directly on Burgundy and put Spain in a troubled position. I don't know if that helps me with anything particularly. That might, so the problem with Burgundy is that might bring the Austrians in. So anyway, we have lots of things to do there. I'm not going to be playing a lot here. I'm just going to do this initial setup thing. You know, there were days not that long ago when I was playing a fair amount more. But this thing, you know, there's something kind of sporadic about dealing with a game like this. Well, dealing with this particular game and my particular life right now. There are just times when I want to be up here doing, when I feel, you know, the drag to come up here, when I think about the other things I have to do game-wise that I'm not doing. Yeah. And somehow it's my games that have a pull on me, not the fact that like I still fucking have to do something about my jury duty. I have to look something up or something. Not the fact that I started looking for work again, maybe kind of. Yeah, I already got one rejection. I think it's just not worth it. Yeah, it was one of the places where, you know, somebody was like supposedly recommending me. I think I just like answered one of their questions on an auto miss, you know, which was they give a series of different questions. How many years have you done this? How many years have you done that? Well, one of them was like security infrastructure or something, and I've done none of that. Which, you know, most of the team to which this guy sent an email to has done none of that. So I don't know what the fuck is up there, but yeah, it's just not what I do. You know, it's very hard to find somebody who does both ends, application and infrastructure security. And I don't know what they're looking for. It's not usual. Yeah, the third one was architectural, which I like kind of gave a bullshit answer because I've never done architectural on my own, but I kind of review other people's stuff architecturally. Anyway, my cards, and I think I kind of fucked up with Spain. Probably one of those people who kind of who didn't get an actual pass or whatever. I want to have bought this, which would give me an extra cube. But they also have almost all their missions still available, mainly because we never could form Spain. We couldn't do the Spanish Main yet. All the stuff that kind of made Spain what it is, it's not what's happening. Spain's kind of powerful. They still have a presence in the Netherlands. They've conquered Portugal. They own Naples. They own Morocco. They're completely not the Spain that you'd expect from their events. If they had succeeded in some of their events, they would probably be right up at the top with other people, but they never could. And some of that is just, you know, this was just too hard. Just like Poland has never taken Lithuania. It's been too hard. There's not enough fat to do certain of your missions even. And colonization, if that's an important part of your goal, and it really is for Spain, it leads to other things. So the only other pathway was the Italian wars, and those have kind of fallen out of reach. They kind of expect that you have Aragon and possessions throughout here and everything. You know, I mean, it's just, yeah, if you flub up, you keep flubbing. And I actually think that the way the game is set up, it is very likely for someone to fuck up on the colonial side, at least, just because keeping your country together and colonizing or going to war, it's almost impossible to do all of those. You can keep your country together and you can expand it, right? That's what Turkey did, right? That's what Austria did. That's France sort of did. But if you have to go to war in an important war with another player, and that's what the Italian wars really kind of devolve into, France and Spain should be fighting over them. Well, it just kind of doesn't happen. But it may. We don't know what's going to happen out of these. Of course, Spain's not going to gain anything because France has no Italy. So, I don't know. Anyway, I still got to figure out what the fuck I'm using for my other cards. I have two of these that are cool. Central Authority, that can get my my stability up, but I have my development here that I absolutely want to use. So that's my admin cards. Exceptional Year, almost always a good idea, but it may be troublesome for me for the same reason it was last turn. So what do I have left? I don't know. Probably diplomacy, because those might include things like a naval tradition or something. But I just don't have the cubes to do much. I have the military cubes, but I'm going to need them to keep my country in order. It's real hard for a subjugate, because a one-card subjugate could get me my Italian ambition. Because you can subjugate from nowhere up to vassal on small towns. And I have 4 of the 5 that I need now. So, assuming, I mean, I could take it somewhere, right? I could take it Naples, Sicily, Corsica, Sardinia. See, the problem with this is that's part of this. So yeah, actually only Corsica could fall to me. Now, I could take that from Genoa fairly easily. So I might actually want to go with a military route there. But like I have enough. No. Anyway, I grabbed 3 of these. A royal marriage, which maybe will help something. Study technology, not at all fucking useful. I may discard that. And enable traditions. That gets me down to 5 cards. I only have to spend $4. I really don't see keeping the study technology. I don't have enough cubes to buy anything. It costs 3 plus 1 is 4. It's just not worth it. I don't know. I am just having so much trouble grasping things right now. I've been away too long, I guess. And, you know, the will to play, like the will to live, disappears pretty quickly. I brought up Axis Empires a couple of times with this because, like this game, it has a sort of non-intuitive thought structure, and Cataclysm's in the same realm with that, whatever. Where it's difficult to kind of understand what you're dealing with, what you have to do. But there is something else that the two have in common, which is the limited resources of, like, you know, these cards, for example. The cards that you pick in Axis Empires are kind of similar, where you have like this limited choice of things which may not really reflect what the reality is. If the scripting all goes perfectly, they do. But if it goes off, sometimes the cards in Total Krieg, well, in Axis Empires in general, end up being like, I have a bunch of things, none of, you know, I have a bunch of choices, but none of which really apply because the war is not going in the direction that I want it to. Now, that's not the case with most other war games. Even take something that is kind of counterintuitive like Cataclysm. You weren't like faced with, gee, which one of these things that you can't do you want? You know. Anyway, let me figure out the English. Oh, Austria's going first. That means England's the last. Well, all right. They don't have a whole hell of a lot of these left. They have 2 more in reserve. One which is control of the Mediterranean, which looks really, really hard. I'm not working towards it at all so far. And the other one is the East Indies, which, again, can't really do that. So I'm going to keep these 2. I probably can't get either of them either. Although colonial ambitions, I may be heading somewhere towards that. And that'll get me towards the East India one. Southeast Atlantic, East African coast. That's these 2. I'll be colonizing something. Maybe not. Maybe this. You know, if I could do exploration, great. East Indies or Great Australian Bight, which would be helpful, but looks unlikely. And certainly, you know, the advantages that it provides are coming way too late compared to when I need, you know, extra colonists. I have a revolutionary idea in hand that's not at all useful, except as a backup king, I guess. But I drew 2 diplomacy cards looking for subjugations or something like that so I could achieve my continental possessions goal. Instead, what I got was a new alliance and a royal marriage. Now, one of these at least, well, one of them is going to go in as an advisor, actually, so that I get more cube production. I pulled a military for the same reason. Let's get an advisor, because I kind of gave up on what I was getting here. But I probably have one that I can play for the alliance or whatever. Looks like I have some alliances available. That ends us here. And you know, the thing is, I feel, so I threw in a lot of time, if not a lot of advance in the game over the last day and a half or whatever. So I don't feel too terrible about it, but I just don't feel like, you know, I'm not progressing the game enough, right? That's the problem. You know, I pull a card and I'm up here for an hour and a half, and that's no good. Anyway, right now I'm not feeling terribly well. I don't know. I had been feeling fine with a nasty cough. Now I feel kind of sicker, a little feverish. Throat's hurting some. Drainage has changed its nature. So I don't know. Well, strangely, maybe not that strange, I've taken on the sleep pattern of yesterday, I guess. I slept for a couple hours, starting around 6 in the morning or whatever, and now it's like 9 something, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to last the day, although I'm trying to help myself to change things up. Made some coffee. It feels like winter again. It's like getting into the low 40s at night, which sometimes it does all year long way here. I mean, sometimes in summer it's like 80 degrees during the day and 40 at night. But it's, you know, it's like 55 degrees out right now, supposedly. It's always colder up here. All right. I guess we start the turn with the Austrian. Fucked up here, right? I gave Spain both revolutionary regime and absolute monarchy. You're only allowed to have one at a time. Now, I don't know how to fix this. If one gets discarded, absolute monarchy should go away. So let me take a look and see if they say government here. Government forms is 21. You know, I knew about that, and I just kind of realized what I had done as I checked to make sure I hadn't violated something. If you research a form when you have one, you lose the earlier one, remove your tag, and you don't lose anything. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Spain had an absolute monarchy. They lost that when they went to revolutionary regime, and that's actually perfectly fine. And I could actually buy absolute monarchy back again. Like, if for some reason you couldn't, you didn't have enough of these available, when government forms come out, you're able to kind of swap them back and forth for whatever it's worth. Okay, so that's cool. I'm having a hard time with the Austrians, though. You know, these first plays of I want to say card plays because it feels like CDG card plays, and it kind of feels the same as when you just have a new hand of cards in a CDG. The first choice in a turn, just like setting up your initial card draw and your picks for missions, it is just so much more expensive than once the turn kind of gets into motion and you only have a few actions left, or once you're in a war and you feel like you have to prosecute it. Yes, Austria wants to go to war with Turkey. Although I have to be careful because Reign of Terror and maybe discontented bourgeoisie, well, Reign of Terror is the one I'm worried about. Because Turkey's applicable to that. I could draw, I could claim that and use it for Spain or something. just to deprive Turkey of the advantage. But that doesn't seem like a big enough advantage to me. It will cause more chaos on this turn if the Turks take it, so I probably want to let them. But I'm really having a hard time figuring out what the fuck I want to do. A blundering sort of way I buy central authority. That will give me certain advantages. I'm not thrilled with it. There are other things I might have done. There's an unrest I probably want to cure. There's some religions that I'd like to fix, which maybe I can't now that I've done this. But I don't know. It's just so hard to make your choices. It also drops a central authority. Now this is getting kind of icky in terms of the number of cubes. I'm not going to be able to take Lithuania because of it. You know, I just don't have enough available without expending things. However, the main reason I chose this was I really want to play Man of the Church, but I don't know what for. Like, I could play it to convert something. It doesn't seem like Protestantism is encroaching any further, so I could start picking off these Protestant areas, turning them counter-reform. Great. But another option would be to grab the papacy and get a damn extra cube every turn. And it's like, oh boy, I don't know. You know? I also have the harbor refugees. Sorry. I keep thinking about, you know, like, it's not how it should be pronounced, right? It's harbor refugees, not harbor refugees. This is the kind of thing that I would make fun of my wife for, because she would put the stress on the wrong word sometimes, and she got much better after the first couple of years. And there were just a couple words she couldn't, you know, like she would say foot for foot. It was just really weird. I mean, for the most part, she had no accent whatsoever. Like, she sounded completely like she was a Native American speaker, except for a couple little twitches here and there. But yeah, it feels, again, like with both players, I've made a bad choice. But it's like, yeah, screw it. You know, there's only so much you can agonize over each choice in the game, and whatever I settle on, I'm probably going to find something wrong with. Definite issues with it, but I think Turkey wants the reign of terror. It gives me another military cube. It will give me, well, it gives me 3 more. It gives me a point of stability. But it will create 4 additional, like 4 rebel armies in my area. But I can pick where I put them as far as I can tell, which means they don't have to go anywhere where they're any danger. But see, here's the problem. I either want to do this, like I want to do this because I don't want Spain to do it. But it would be very valuable to like put rebel armies here, because they could expand into these 2 areas. But I've got a rebellion right now. And if there's rebel armies there, I would have to quell the rebellion first. I think I'm going to take it anyway, because I'm really worried Spain's going to take it. I just think it's good for anybody who has the impact. Of course, the Jacobin clubs are not terribly better than John, Sultan of the Ottomans. However, okay. So first I gain a military cube. Then I pick me. I'm revolutionary regime. I gain 2 military cubes. Awesome. This puts me in a much better place if Austria is going to attack me. I don't know that they are. But it does give me a lot of defense there. I set my stability to -2, which is a good thing now. And I will get 2 more revolutionary areas. Uh-oh. I gotta find 2 more red things for inside my realm. And I will be getting 4 rebels. And with the rules as written, these are a limited commodity, so I wouldn't be able to just pull these in. What I'd have to do instead is steal them from, say, the Spaniards, which feels so stupid to me. If the Spaniards have a revolutionary regime, that I can take their essentially religious markers away. Same thing happens with the Protestant counter-reform. I would be taking it away from somewhere else. It does not feel believable to me, right? Again, I can make some hand-wavy arguments about it, but it doesn't feel believable. What else is going to happen here? I'm going to get the Jacobin Club because I don't want to discard 2 advisors. It's actually better than what I have, except it's not a general, which means if I want generals, I have to pay for them. Okay. So what areas do I want to switch to? I'm going to put one here because that's especially useful to me. And like that's extending the revolution forward into areas that appeal to me. This is still, and it's also not my realm, I think. I don't know. No, I think I could put it there if I didn't own that. I can't put it in my vassals, though. I might want some down here, but I can expand in that direction, I guess. This might be nice because it's already a non-revolutionary area with that diverse faiths in there. Alternatively, it might be useful to put it in some of these. You know, Muslim's just as bad for me. So honestly, I'm going to put it here because that'll allow for a broader spread, because that's another grouping. And then we exchange this. But yeah, you know, me cheating in this way to make, oh, I didn't put my troops down. Me cheating in this way, it just came natural, and I don't want to reverse it. I probably would have tried to play by the rules if I understood them at the time. Okay, so where do these little fuckers go? Well, the problem is I don't want them near me. And not near me, there's no real unrest around here, but I could sink them all over here. That would be kind of a safe place to dump them. However, let's check alphabet. So Wallachia has 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are equally valuable. So anything here would go into Greece. 1, 2, 3. It wouldn't go into Greece. It would go into Serbia before Wallachia, because alphabetically Serbia is more is closer to the alphabet. But I could convert this using a military cube. So I feel like I'm safe putting some here. And why don't we put 3 of the 4 there and 1 over there? I mean, this one's not really doing any damage if I put it there. It's like if I put somebody in the archipelagos, they aren't really doing any damage. Hey, I lost Naxos. Sucks to be me. Oh, I'll put one here just in case things get interesting. No, it's got to be 2 in each. Fuck it. I'm hoping to convert these 2 to not being in rebellion anymore, so that it drives these towards the Poles. Of course, that forces the Poles to get rid of their rebellion, unrest, so they want that. I mean, they want that anyway. So maybe it just makes sense to dump it all in Naples. Be safer. No, Poland doesn't have a lot of military cubes. I got this horrible, like, all the shit in my lungs is causing this horrible kind of wheezing. Every time I breathe, even half deeply, it's like, I'm not getting it. There's sort of a vibrato that happens with that. There you can kind of hear it maybe, I don't know. But it's just nasty, nasty shit. Now, I've had this before every so often, but it's not common even when I get my cough and and all kind of crap in my lungs, it's not common that I have this. Unfortunately, it probably isn't going to kill me. Smoking isn't helping. After I have to remember to do this, I draw one more of these, and we get Viva la Revolution! Take a military reforms card from the discards and play it for free. Then you must research the revolutionary regime idea at a 1 military discount or lose 4 stability. Wow. Remove all rebels and unrest from your realm. Wow. Revolutionary regime is a military idea, right? So that's going to cost 5, but I get a 1 discount, so 4. So somebody who has a problem could go revolutionary here as well. Now, I don't think anybody... So this may be the card that should cause the French Revolution, and nothing else. You know, the cards that happened previously were like things that historically weren't taken, basically. The paths weren't taken. Then you gain 2 unrest and add 3 rebels to one of your areas. So if you don't already have a rebellion and a mess going on, you don't want to do this. Opponents without revolutionary regime that are adjacent to your realm lose 2 stability and gain 2 military. They each gain a claim on one of your areas. Nasty, nasty, nasty. We're also seeing a lot of unrest, a couple of revolutionary spreads. Yeah. So I think whatever choices I made on those previous cards, I don't know what soaring bread prices, the decline of the ancient regime. See, to me, that happens after the American Revolution. But again, maybe I'm missing something in my historical knowledge. But anyway, this is an interesting and dangerous card, isn't it? All the cards are kind of nasty. Like nothing's showing up. This one wasn't bad for Turkey, but nothing's showing up that's like, you know, these happy, hey, you get a ruler that you wanted and you get some good reform or changes that you want and it kind of makes you a little happier or causes a little disruption, but it's worth it. These are just like big world-changing events that are happening, you know, and maybe that makes sense, you know. It's less a period about the kings and more a period about new government forms and ideas coming out. This take a military reform is choose one. So here's the problem. That's a really vague term. I don't know, you know, maybe there's somewhere in the rules where it says what that means, but yeah, is that either randomly or not randomly? You know, which one? Lesson to be learned there is from CDGs. If they meant, you know, pick one, they should have said choose. From the discards. Oh, wait, a military reforms card from the discards. No, this is not at all what I thought it was. It's not an idea. It's look in the discards. If there's a military reforms card, that's one of these face-up guys here. You get it. Aha. Uh-huh. Okay. So that is not at all ambiguous. It's just hard to remember what they're talking about. Like, it's not really their fault. It's a matter of just too much information overload in general in the game, right? It feels like, well, military reforms, they mean idea. No, they would say idea if they meant that, but hard to remember these types of things, right? France can't think of anything they terribly need to do right now, which feels a little weird, but, you know, I've got a couple of truces, including, most importantly, there. I can't figure out a way to use this border conflict. Maybe I could have done something against Italy. I don't have a huge amount of cubes, but I have a few. I've studied technology, which means I could take a technology from somebody next to me. That's Austria, Spain, and England. Toleration. Interesting. That's a very powerful capability. I'm not being encroached on, but the revolutionary ideals could come my way. Got that. Military drill. This gives you some debt, and debt's expensive for me. It's kind of useful, though. I do not have a government. I could take an absolute monarchy. We don't have the constitutional monarchy yet available. Enforce a peace. You know, I forgot to do this for Poland. They should have an extra stability. They enforced a peace on Turkey last turn. Right? Did they? I think so. Like, there's a truce. Yeah. I think I did, and I'm going to give them a cube for that they would have had. And that's it. Okay. That's just trying to fix the fact that I cannot remember what all of these are. Definitely don't want a revolutionary regime. Trade companies? You collect trade income from a trade node. No ship needs to contract back as long as the areas. Basically, I have like notional shipping where I have colonies. So like this, I wouldn't need ships here. I could move further east and transit through there, but I would still need them here. Gosh. And what's the cost of this? So the cost of this is basically 3 diplomatic, and it would be 1, I guess, diplomatic again, because it has to do with trade. And I don't have these in necessarily the right order. And it would get me 2 points, which is kind of nice. I don't see the advantage as being all that helpful. Is there an automatic effect? No. There's nothing I get as a bonus for that. And I can't get anything else, so I don't really think I want to spend on those. Those cubes, I could move one of them elsewhere. Whoopee! I get a cube. I get a usable cube. Man of the church, I can't use it on the papacy, but I could use it to create something to be Protestant. And I think I want to save that for revolutionary stuff because I don't think the Counter-Reformation is moving on its own. Harbor refugees, I do think I want to play that, and that's my only admin cube, which kind of would suck. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to play central authority, increase stability. I get it for 0. 0 is a good price. And I'm just going to do that and say screw it. It's not impossible for me to play the way I feel. Like, my mind feels like it's working okay, you know, like normal and all. Having to walk over and blow my nose every time that after I take one player turn is kind of painful. Now, I gotta tell you, it's less painful than having to run downstairs and play Raid, you know, but it is sort of fatiguing in a different sort of way. It just feels like, fuck, I'm just too ill to do this, man. I don't know what happens with this. Here it says, take a military reforms from your discard and play it for free. Then you must research the revolutionary regime idea. Spain cannot research the revolutionary regime idea. They already have it. Do they pay the penalty or are they free? I don't know. I really don't know. I think I would say that they're enhancing the revolution, etc. They wouldn't have to. Conceivably, I think they're allowed to remove it and research it. So maybe that's the requirement, that they absolutely do need to pay all those military cubes, which they obviously can't afford to. So anyway, I mean, they're not going to pick this. It's not terribly useful for them, but it might be a situation where if you had a lot of unrest and rebellion going on in your country, you would want to pick the event. I really don't like the Declaration of Independence, do I? 2 areas with burps adjacent to North America. Huh. Yeah, I would lose something. It doesn't spread completely, so it's actually 2 areas adjacent to North America and all areas with burps adjacent by land to the chosen areas. So if I pick this, I could take these 2 areas and this would go with them and just become another country, another dynamic NPR. However, if I don't do, and it would be pink, which is the same color as the Danes are, but it would be a different symbol. Yeah. Talk about confusing, right? Now, I would not be hit. It would destroy the 2 English ones, and it would get rid of, and it would put a claim on my Virginia, which I think I have, which I don't really mind like that. That's not as dangerous. So then I could get an alliance with them or a war with them. I might want to do this instead of letting England do it, because England could do it to these 2, drop a claim here, and then conquer the areas that I need. Now, I don't particularly want the areas up there, but I think, so it's kind of weird to allow like the 2 English areas to rebel. I think I want to do this actually because it reduces the amount of pain that I'm going to suffer. Now there's a possibility that I will lose Virginia out of this, but Virginia is not that important to me, is it? Okay, so we take $2. This is crazy. We pick Canada and New England, I believe it is up there, and all areas with blips adjacent to them will add pink. So we look for a new pink. There is no pink. These are the pinks. So we got to find the pink capital. Now this would destroy Persia, right? They would get decreased by this. Okay, we do not see the pink capital. Is the pink capital on the back of this? That would be really stupid. I had this kind of feeling before that something was missing. Do I have like 2 pink capitals out there? I don't see it. Ah, there's more over here. There it is. Okay. So let me put this one on the board and give them Herat over here. I I'm probably going to convert more over to blue things. Again, for the same reason that I don't want the religion happening. I just don't feel like these countries should shrink just because there's another dynamic NPR showing up on the board. Yeah, you can make arguments. You know, there's no connection between the two events, but that these two events would happen simultaneously. So the way I'm cheating, this is America. And it has a claim on Virginia, which is Spanish. I add, okay, remove all those in each area. Add unrest and an army. Oh, I'm not sure how much I like that. I didn't think too hard about that. But the thing is, England could do a lot more damage to me than I can do to them. They could have created unrest throughout all of this and avoided this danger themselves. So now there's an army of rebellion there and an unrest, sorry. Which means I will lose this to the English or to the Americans if I'm not careful. I still think this is a good idea. Yeah, I'm that stupid. Then you may either take a free declare war action. So England, who just lost this territory, no, they have nothing they can do about it. Because it's not your own areas. You may take a free declare war action targeting this DNPR or gain an alliance with them. Interesting question. I could probably prosecute that war, but I have enough internal problems, and I don't know what the value would be. So I'm going to ally with. Well, see, here's the thing. I do have to prosecute it to keep my Virginia province. But maybe I don't care about my Virginia province. Maybe I'm willing to let it go. So I make my alliance with them, even though, like, and England's like, oh, the colonies have revolted, and we'll let Spain take care of that. We'll let them decide what the result is, which just feels absolutely goofy. Okay, that puts us to an unrest rebellion, which is the die rolls, and then we're going to have expansions on pink and green. Since I picked this card, I don't have to expand the Americas. I can expand the Danes, which probably is more useful to me. You know, the English don't even get a claim over there to that stuff. Maybe, again, there's some rule buried somewhere that says whenever a DNPR, you know, takes your territory, whenever you lose a province for any reason, but I don't think that's the case. Yeah, now I'm going to have to look it up. Fuck me. If I hadn't picked up the camera, I could have just ignored this, right? So what is this? I don't know. It's a blip, right? I don't know what the word is. Is it a town? I don't know what it's called. Like city comes to mind, but I don't think that's going to help me. Province, I don't know where I would look. How about claims? I doubt this is going to help, but it may tell me that claims, I don't know. 3, 15, 22, 25, 26, 43. Claims. Claims in Battleground. It was like a 26 in there. Okay, I can't keep this. I'll have to find it again. 26 is distant provinces, the ability to move. I can remember what they are when I see them in place. We look again for claim. We're not seeing it. There it is. 2225, 315, 2225. Movement. Not sure I see where claim is going to be here. Fuck. Military access is not available in neutral areas in which you have a claim. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks. Thanks for that clarification. I could have figured that one out. 315.22, and that's sort of the thing. Like, rules that are intuitive, like most games, like most war games have for all their rules, my reaction is kind of like, obviously I didn't need a fucking roll for that. It's the 50 to 60% of the game that's not intuitive that I'm like, oh, yeah, that's the thing I'm going to have to keep looking up. So this is having to do with casus belli off of a claim. I think it's 3 and 15. I don't want to keep looking up. That's fabricating claims, okay? And now we're going to be on 3. 3 is going to be probably the most likely place for this. But again, out of these, well, given that we've looked at all the others, and we try to avoid, well, claim is mentioned here, there may not be a specific note of claim anywhere. So there may not be, so there's nothing that actually tells you what a claim is except this little iconography here, and they don't reference that. None of this says that you get a claim for anything, right? I haven't run into, everywhere where I've looked up, none of them have been locations where it said, and after this happens, you get a claim. Where I do expect to see something like that in certain places, where I know there's not going to be a rule about this. So for example, here, and there was no reference to page 30, PRs that have lost any of their provinces or vassal provinces as consequences of this war gain a claim in the area. That's the keep current board state, okay? I also think that rebels give you a claim, but I'm not positive about this. Liberation, no. Sieging rebel towns, I don't see it. You know, I think maybe rebels don't. And this is essentially a rebellion. So my feeling then is that the English get no claim, so they have no right to go to war there without losing stability or whatever. Like I've ever done that, right? Because it's so cheap to fabricate a claim. But something feels very wrong that I settled these areas, this card came up, somehow or another Spain gets a declaration of war on them potentially, which I kind of understand because of the because they're getting affected by it, but they need not have. You know, Turkey could have played this, right? And done the same exact thing and have either an alliance or a declaration of war with the Americas, even though they have absolutely no interest in that area, right? If they were just trying to fuck with the winner or whatever. Okay. So yeah, I rolled the Spaniards get 1 die advantage off of this. They only had to roll 1 die, and I did that over here in Portugal. They got away with losing a cube or something. So now I'll start processing everyone else. I lied. Instead, I'll babble a little bit. This is why, what I just mentioned, what we're seeing here, this is why this game takes so long on video, right? It probably would take as long to play because there would be arguments, discussions, etc., like playing it opposed. But what you often see is me holding my monologues on like the kind of things that would cause disputes in the game. in a lot of cases, or complaints, like where somebody would just go on a rant like I do in the midst of the game, and that would bring things to a halt. But also the amount of rules lookups, the amount of all that. So, you know, in a sense, you're seeing what the cost of playing this is going to be in a kind of fair way, in a way that, like, you know, probably an edited and less chatty aspect of the circumstances happening in the game state would be lacking. Of course, we're also including the fact that there's a bunch of people who just like don't do anything during the turns and draw people whose turn it is into conversations about their life and all that too. But, you know, that happens sometimes. There was a revolt down here. King Hernan of England had to go down there and defend it. He lost one of his artillery pieces in doing so, although he defeated the revolt overall. This unrest, of course, further depletes the resources that these countries have to either, you know, to expend on either colonization or any other active actions they might want, trying to incorporate something like Lithuania. You know, like Turkey lost all their admin cubes. Sucks to be them. Yeah, mainly because I have a plan for my diplomatic cubes. I think I can get Tunisia off of them, which is, you know, this goal. And my military cubes I absolutely need to resolve the problems that are currently underway in my country. But nothing rebelled, and now we'll function these off. That's a green. Are there any green left? Green had been here, and the Portuguese, I think, and they're both gone. I don't see any green left, which means I get to fire off a pink as Spain. I could expand into here, but no one else is really competing with me there. So I think I will do something with the Danes, and I'll probably throw them somewhere obnoxious like Cape of Good Hope or something. So again, that expansion would have actually caused a maybe sensible, like, loss of the sort of Scanian war territory. Well, that would be this. Norway, which Denmark didn't really lose. That would start trimming away. Or perhaps I want to take away from these. I really don't like that idea. I feel like the dynamic NPRs are the closest thing to something that's like a challenge to the players at all. So I want them to be kind of potent. And, you know, if you look at like the Dutch, they expanded quite a bit in addition to holding the kind of territorial holdings they have. You might argue that they did start giving up their claims to Flanders as time went on. So that might be reasonable on their side. But, you know, I like these little NPC empires to grow. I don't feel like their growth is causing anything too unreasonable, except for the fact that, you know, Sweden never has happened. Like, I feel like there should be a card that caused Denmark, just like there is if there's a player for Denmark-Sweden, there should be something that causes Denmark to lose its prominence and for Sweden to gain it. Probably just right at the 30 Years' War, if you needed to, right? I mean, honestly, what should happen is there should be a card that establishes a dynamic NPR in Sweden, has them seize maybe the gains of the Scanian War, and maybe also, you know, expand into some other territories. That would make the most sense, right? Like, instead we had nothing from Sweden, basically. Sweden didn't exist. Now, Sweden, during the 30 Years' War period, and from then on, is important. Now, throughout the game. you might argue in the Napoleonic Wars they're pretty unimportant. Yeah, but not as unimportant as Denmark is, right? So I just feel like something should have triggered that change, and it might even be Denmark just disappears from the map as an NPR, as a dynamic NPR. And if they have any colonies or anything, I don't know what to do with them in that case. You know, like you couldn't make them another color. Because the danger here is that you'd run out of total number of DNPRs. Now, personally, what I would do in that case is I'd create a new counter set for them. Because again, I like these things. I like the idea of there being semi-non-player things. You know, bots require that you have a full player set. They're basically a non-player, like, I mean, they say non-player realm. Well, yeah, but they're basically a real, like, if you have player realms, bots are player realms played by not players. Like, they're the things that really feel like NPRs, you know, whereas what you have with these dynamic things, they're like dynamic miners, and these are miners, but they're just called NPRs for the sake of everything. That brings us to the last player this round around. But first, I always forget, we toss a couple bucks on each of these, and yes, my ones are short. And we draw another event. Coup within the coup. Napoleon. Oh, he gets to choose any kind of dice he likes. And he is good. You gain 4 military and must discard your ruler and set your stability to -1. Bonus! And that makes sense. France was bonused. Now, this card could have been in the later deck, which would also make sense, because it would let the revolution kind of play out for a while. If France has the revolutionary regime idea, no. And negative stability, no. Well, yes. They may now gain 1 stability by replacing their current ruler with Napoleon I. If France does not do this, you may do so the same on the same terms. Then you take a free declare war action, or may take one. Wow. So, this is a massive opportunity for Turkey, who's in an interregnum now. How'd that happen? When did that happen? How did Turkey lose their leader? Fuck me. They didn't. They have the Jacobin Club. Okay. This is a massive opportunity for Turkey. They're the next person to go with a revolutionary regime who could pick this up. Anyone else would have to trigger off a revolutionary regime somehow, and good luck with that, right? If Turkey doesn't do it, Spain has the opportunity to do it. Both of them now have the opportunity to become Napoleon, and Napoleon kicks ass. Now, if Napoleon doesn't show up until the last deck, he's not that impressive. So he should show up in this part of the deck. Like, we are in the last half, the third quarter though, which means Napoleon could show up and have very little effect, not give you any of his advantages, just give you his military capability. But yeah, if France doesn't do it, you can do so the same. So you gain 4 military, your stability goes up to -1. And you gain more stability. Wow. Now, anyone could do this. And kill Napoleon prior to Turkey getting the option. Austria may want to do that. This may be absolutely important because this could fix the Turkish problem greatly. It would increase their stability. It would give them a better military leader, give them a whole bunch of cubes. Of course, 2, 4, 6, 7. I mean, they can only go up to 10. So, sucks to be them. But if they don't take it, Spain will take it. So, like, it's just too big an advantage. And a free declare war doesn't have to be against a player. It could be against something, you know, that you really just need to gain, and give you big bonuses that way. All right, on to the English. England doesn't have a lot of cubes, which sucks. I don't think there was an event I particularly wanted to do. What I'm looking at is my goals. If I wanted to follow up on my goals, I might attack Ghent and Antwerp here, which seem to be unclaimed or not. This is there, this is there, this is there, this is that. I think one of these is supposed to be a Dutch. Okay, so all I could get is Ghent without going to war with someone big. Not so hot, right? And Ghent, wait, Ghent is the one I have. That's here and here. Okay, never mind. Things have gotten bumped probably because of the military unit there. So yeah, there's nothing I can gain there. I would like to succeed in my continental possessions. That's the Netherlands, Flanders and Wallonia. There's no one person I could even attack for that other than the Dutch. And Lower Saxony, which is largely Danish. There's an alliance for me with Braunschweig. Maybe I could pick that up. Magdeburg is a Polish alliance. That would bring me into an ugly position, perhaps. I have a marriage. I don't have any kind of subjugation or anything. Or no, I have an alliance. I don't have the subjugation I need. Westphalia doesn't help me. I'm not seeing an easy way to go for that. Colonial ambitions is stuff over here. I have a bunch of colonial cubes. What I don't have is a place that I can colonize. I also don't have ships in the right locations to do so, right? So my ships carry me to here, but they do not carry me back to here, and I don't have a colony there. I could sail around looking for places, or I could stay where I am and look for places. None of those really help me. I do have a ship here, which I could sail 1, 2, and get close to connecting up. Not good enough. Yeah, there's just nothing that nothing that's hooking me up there. I don't own this anymore, so this ship could go somewhere. I'm low on money, so I probably want to do diplomacy. Probably want to do trade at some point, which might allow me to shift some things around. Might not. Who knows? I'm really having trouble finding anything that I can do of any value. However, I have some rebellions, which would be of value to clean up, and I have some unrest, which is probably even more important. Unfortunately, there's also a religious problem here, and I have no way to deal with that, do I? Nope. Well, fuck me. That's why I don't want to be on the continent. There's damn Catholics there. I should go conquer France. Yeah, I don't fucking know what to do. So I decided to go with trade because I wanted to build an army, but my money was a little low. Got lucky. Got North Sea. I was able to get maximum there. Only $9 even with the extended. And that is probably it for a while, maybe for the day. It wears me out so much to do a time around the board that's this intensive. There's a chance I'll be up tonight or whatever. But that's why this slows down so much, is when I'm up here and it takes me, 2 hours to go around the board once. Shit, man. And I think that's what it's taken. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck this says. Like, I don't know how much time I have on it. There's two things. There's the time for the current video side, which tells me, like, I've used a minute on this one. And then there's the amount of time remaining on the camera, which I didn't realize was there. That's 4 hours and 48 minutes. So I got to be careful. These videos are getting big enough that like I could be close to challenging them. But yeah, we made our way around. Austria has to think real hard about whether or not they want to deprive Turkey of Napoleon. If I'm going to war with Turkey, I really kind of have to, which means I'll be using, this for my event. I'd gain 4, discard my ruler, but I'd also gain a couple of stability. And I don't really get anything bad. And then I get a free declare war action. So I could go to war with Turkey. And because it's a declare war action, I'd be able to build troops. Of course, it's giving them more alert than I'd like. And they have a lot of cubes. But they're also in a shitty position. The question is this wise? I'm ahead of them by a little bit. Poland's tied with me. I could be giving Poland, the big advantage out of this. But on the other hand, I sure the hell don't want Turkey to get Napoleon. I'm not feeling too hot still. I haven't come up. It's like a little after midnight now. I've taken a couple of naps today. Mainly just fucking around. But Austria is going to buy one of these. It doesn't actually cost me anything because the base cost is 3, and I was at -3. So it just cost me a cube off there to increase stability. I really like that capability. Yeah, I had to pay 2 and a couple of bucks. So, it's not like I'm getting them for free, but basically I'm getting them for a couple bucks, for a couple of cubes less each time, and that's nice. Also choose to increase stability by 1. That brings them up to -2. I don't know why they were at -2. I think maybe they chose something that gave them a stability out of cards that other people chose a more revolutionary option. It takes a diplomatic influence option, spending 1 cube and $3 to drop a couple of influence into here. I actually have bonuses. I may want to do this differently. Let's look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could absorb all of this completely as part of my country. Now that may not be wise because it's not revolutionary. So maybe this, because I have a pair of subjugate markers there. This would cost me 1 more cube. Let's spend 3 more bucks for 1 more cube. If I'm spending for 2 cubes, I might as well buy a 3rd and put that in here. Now, why did I lose a cube off that? I don't know. Now, I have the bonus diplomats somewhere. I don't know where they are. They'll be here. When I buy up to 3 in cards, in each area per influence action. Oh, you know what? Yeah, but it's per area. So these big areas I can throw a lot in, but I've been not limiting the amount of cubes that I can put. Is it here? It is not. Or wait, no, maybe it is. Influence. Yeah, see here, it says influence 1 piece or $3 per cube, must spend a minimum of 1 cube. No limitation is mentioned on the little cheat sheet, which of course means, anyway, hold on. The Turks get they get a free cube, which is what I didn't read there, but I found something else. Okay, so let's find this again. When you place 3 or more cubes at once during an influence action, you place a cube in an area for free. I don't know where to put it. I could put it just about anywhere. I'll put it here, help defend that. But wherever that action is probably tells me that there is a limitation. But because the cheat sheet doesn't tell me, I never look, right? This is the problem with cheat sheets that give pretty incomplete information. So there may be a lot of cases like this. So here, you may place cubes in areas adjacent to any of your blah blah blah. You can place as many as you like, but no more than 2 in each area in any single turn. Now, obviously, look, this thing is jam-packed. There's not room for more there. But if there's other information that you need at your fingertips when you're scanning through that, what this really just becomes is kind of your menu, and then you have to go look in the encyclopedia every fucking time that you look in the menu because you don't remember. Like, I certainly didn't remember that there was this limitation. Now, what does that limitation mean? Well, it's kind of weird because for the most part, it's fine, right? How many cubes do I want to put in an area? Well, here, I don't want to put more than 2. 2 is sufficient to take over the entire area. But you've got things like this where I may have thrown a lot of those cubes at once, maybe more than I was allowed to. Napoleon's allowed to play 3, I think, because I think they're up here. God knows. I also keep looking at this and the diplomatic ventures, and nobody's ever fucking going to do it because I don't look at it. But even when I'm over here, I don't generally look at it. But if we look at this, what was I saying? Yeah, Turkey and Poland are the 2 that have that capability. That allows them to put 3 in an area at once. 3 is probably enough for anywhere, right? Because 4 tax value requires 2 cubes to form something with. An alliance. Oh, this is what's fucking wrong. I need to form an alliance, which I don't have the points for. So this subjugation is stupid. Like, I have these subjugations that I think I was going to use, and I can't because I don't have the points for an alliance, right? And I do need to do, I need Dudu. I need Dudu. I do need to do this. Let's check this again. Tripolitania, Tunisia, and Algiers. Tripolitania and Algiers, I am at 5. I only need 1 more, but I can't subjugate just part of this. I need to subjugate all of it. And where did I put other cubes? I don't know. I put 3 down. Oh, I put an extra one here, I guess. So I could subjugate this and gain control of Algiers. That's probably the only thing I can do because this I need to create an alliance first, I guess, and that is half the tax income. The tax income's 1.5. I'm sorry, 3. So I'd need 1.5. I'd need 2 cubes. I don't have 2 cubes. I could do a reorg, but then I wouldn't have enough cubes to vassalize it. No, I would still have the 2 cubes there to vassalize it, so I could do that. But I wouldn't have the cubes here to do it. So yeah, it doesn't work. But I could take it a step. And there's no alliance card here, is there? I got a royal marriage, not an alliance. So I don't know. This is what I fucking did. It just frustrates me when I get to like, how do you manipulate the cubes properly? Well, it doesn't all say it here, you know. You have to memorize the entire rule book, but this will remind you that you can do things. But it's not sufficient to play the game from. And that's kind of the thing. I need it to be sufficient, you know. I need it to give, and a little asterisk wouldn't help either because I'm just not going to be able to notice that. I'm doing quick checks and stuff, so I don't know what to say, you know. The game is too complicated in terms of all these little things that you can do at any time, basically, in the game. Not at any fucking time, but like during what would be sort of these pulse-type maneuvers like they are in EU, where all you can do is a very small quantity of things, right? You can move units in territories that you know already, land and naval. So you have to know the land and naval movement rules through the main meat of the game. And you have to know the exploration rules. And that's pretty close to it. And the combat rules, you know. That's sort of like the core of a war game, right? That's what you do during the most of the game there. Most of the time that you're spent playing the game. Well, not necessarily, but then the other part of the game covers all this other stuff, but it's all you sitting down with a spreadsheet following individual line items in a prescribed order, essentially, because it's in the spreadsheet. And you eventually get used to them and know all the important ones. So something like diplomatic influence might be important. Well, you know the base rules for that. You know that you would only be able to, put X amount of influence into an area or whatever, simply because you're always following it in the same order. Here, I got this whole jumbled up section, all this shit, all my cards, maybe stuff off of some of those that I can do. And almost all of it, or a lot of it, contains questions that I have to look up. That's problematic. That's problematic. If I'm sitting there with a spreadsheet and on 1 or 2 turns, or maybe five turns, say, out of 60 in the old EU, right? If there's a couple of times that I have to look things up over the course of the game, and then eventually get used to them because they're following a set pattern. They're not dynamically all mishmashed together and interleaved into, well, you can do anything at any time, And again, not exactly true, but pretty fucking close. There are a lot, so more of the game than not is sort of this set piece thing, right? If we look at the sequence of play, it looks like, well, draw a card phase, I consider that to be set piece. I'm looking at each person, I'm making the same kind of decisions for each person in order. Then I come to the action phase. That's where it's problematic. That's where 80 to 90% of the game is played. Just like, and I'm alternating between players and making little decisions. That's the part that's kind of like EU. In the old EU, I'm alternating between different players, but the decisions are all of the same nature. Sorry, I need to catch some of this snot. It's dripping down too badly, which is why I don't play when I'm really snot-filled. I'm snot-filled, but it's not runny in the same way. So, in the old EU, my decisions are, okay, how much am I paying for my campaign? Probably $10 because that's almost always the answer. Maybe nothing, and I'm not going to do a damn thing. And which areas do I want to move to? And all of them follow the same movement rules, or if there are areas that have not been entered into my exploration logs, they follow the same exploration rules. About half the countries maybe are dealing with that, but it's all kind of happening at the same time. It's a fairly simple set of rules. It's about the size of a normal war game, so you can remember most of it. And hey, does that cause any battles or anything, any sieges? Yeah, I figured that out. Again, the whole of that action phase or combat round, campaign rounds in Europa Universalis is like playing a normal war game. The rest of it is like playing a normal economic game, right? Sitting there with the spreadsheet and dealing with that. An old school economic game, something like Stellar Conquest or something, right? It's more complicated, but okay. And you can look at really, really complex games like A World at War, and they follow the same kind of procedure where, look, maybe there's more complexity. They certainly use up a lot of rule book to make sure they nail every fucking possible edge case down completely, using as many words as possible. The rule book in that is horrible in many ways. But even with that horrible big rule book, eventually you learn how to do the things that you do in any given phase. But then here, Peace and Rebels phase, it's a nice little sequence of little actions, very much like following the spreadsheet thing. I'm just, doing mainly mechanical stuff in the case of this. There might be some on-off things just because there's cards over there and whatnot, if I can remember to put them into play. Income and upkeep, real simple. I'm following a little path, counting up numbers, collecting things. Sure, I might have a couple of decisions in there. There are some special cases that I miss because I'm an asshole and an idiot, but hey, that's what you have. Cleanup, absolutely trivial, right? All of this is just sequential. I got to follow the cookbook. It's all I can follow. It's not like I have to make too many choices in there that cause branching. I'm doing the things that happen in that sequence of play order, just like you do in every other game. But the beating heart of this game is this action phase. And this is where most of the stuff you do is. You know, most of the stuff from the economic phase in there is mingled in. All the subsystems are mingled in, and worse than that, using abstracted mechanisms as well. But I mean, the abstracted mechanisms are necessary to be able to do that interleaving. Anyway, here we've gone on another one of these fucking rants. It's not something I haven't said before. It's just, it pisses me off so much that I can't follow the rules because it's an overly complicated game to interleave to this degree, right? CDGs have some of this problem too. CDGs where the cards, where there's too many different options in the menu for how you use your points, similar to this. Sometimes that happens. And sometimes the cards don't contain all the information that they need. And sometimes they don't contain the little asterisk that sends you into the rule book. And I had some problems with that with a couple of more recent CDGs where they try to put too much event onto the card mechanism. Too much complexity onto that, and then don't have a lookup reference on the card to tell you, this card doesn't really tell you what you need to know. And to be fair, they're smaller companies. I think, I've picked on this one because I definitely remember Time of Wars definitely had it. I think Wars of Religion had a little bit of that. That was also more recent. I kind of seem to remember the old Assyrian Wars having this problem. But basically, if a CDG doesn't give you... Oh, I know which one. The 2 minutes to midnight or whatever had issues where you had to look things up. Because sort of there were too many mechanisms, and the mechanisms kind of interacted with the cards in ways that caused you to have to look shit up. But here, not only do you have cards, but you also have a big menu. And it would be like a very, very complex CDG, right? In the same sort of manner, where, the player's aid is a nice thing, and I'm glad it's there. It would be fucking horrible without it. But you have to pretty much know the rules and memorize them. It's not gonna help you. It's not really telling you what you need to do. So, compare it with some very simple CDGs, things like Sword of Rome, where you look on the card, you look on the player's aid, and it almost tells you the whole goddamn game on those. You can't do that here, even with, they never look at this side, which is good, because most of what's on this side is stuff that I definitely don't do enough to remember, but I certainly didn't remember the cube limit per area until I looked at that card, right? That's sort of the thing. I've had cases where looking at one of these cards gives me an exemption, and I'm like, wow, I didn't know I had a restriction. I made it halfway around. I made it one time around without early in the turn, and then on the first, not even round, because round means something different than time around the table or anything like that. Round means these action phases. Oh, no, round means the whole fucking thing, right? I mean, the thing that you would call a turn. That's what round means. So let's be really, really counterintuitive in terms of the terminology of the game. I really hate that. It should be game turns and player turns. Just make that simple. and player turns come in rounds, right? Hey, everything works that way, right? Not this. No. You add wooden cubes to a game and people start making up new terminology just to make things even more confusing. But yeah, I made it 1.5 times around with a long break of sleeping in between before I blew a gasket again, right? Oh, fuck me, right? I was supposed to start this fucking turn by looking at this shit. Because this was a huge deal for Turkey. Great. Now I feel like I want to undo everybody's turn and just go hang myself, really. Because I need to deal with this. Like, skipping this was absolutely the wrong thing to do, but I didn't even remember it was here. Now, often I would just skip this completely, that this was here, but let's think about it. I'm not too terribly concerned about Austria or Poland missing this, unless it's really too big for Turkey. Yeah, Austria can't afford Turkey to do this. They want to go to war with Turkey. Okay, we got to back everybody up. So, I made it negative half a way around the board. Fucking hell. All right, we'll undo everything. Like I said, I don't have the fucking will to go on anymore. I mean, I'll continue the game some other day. Right now, no. Even though I know what has to happen, right? I almost want to put, look, I'm going to do it. I'll figure the fuck out of this when I get here. But I'm going to put this card right here on the fucking first player thing. We'll see if that reminds me that I have to deal with that shit. The reason I noticed it was I looked at France and said, hey, wait, didn't France have an event they wanted to do? Or that they did? I was a little confused. I thought they did one. No problem with Turkey, by the way, though. I don't have to worry about Turkey. Well, fuck me. I'm not undoing. I don't know. Because Poland may want to take care of it. I can't fucking think. I can't fucking think. There's too much to keep track of in this game. There really is. Like you might say, well, look, man, a world at war, you point to that. Old EU. These are more complicated games than this. Yeah, they are. But they're not fucking Euros. You know, you make something so complex and use Euro principles for design for it, and you know what? It stops working. It falls apart. I always thought it would fall apart in the rule book, and maybe it does till a little bit. I read through the book. Good parts of it made sense. Parts of it didn't. Like it didn't dawn on me at all what the fuck cubes are. I still don't know, but I know how to manipulate them a little better. But yeah, you know, and I got to tell you, much simpler games than a World at War or EU. Things like Age of Renaissance, things like Advanced Civilization, which give you too big a set of cards and interactions and everything. If that is all the game is about, right? If the game is only about the cards and the interactions, it might be okay. Magic the Gathering comes to mind, right? Although I'd say that's a lifestyle game, so you know it's kind of exempted from this. Maybe Dominion. You have like 10 cards, but it's where your entire focus is on those 10 cards that you're dealing with, right? You're not worrying about all the complexity of a fairly detailed board game to deal with, and also all this shit out there. All this information that's like cluttered all over the fucking place. Even with Age of Renaissance, with all the information on your sheet of paper, it's tiny type, and honestly, it's lots of little special cases, right? It's not right in front of you in an accessible way. It's much more difficult than that. And not all of it is in the player aids again. Some of it you have to refer to in the rulebook. Anyway, failure tonight. We unwound. We might do exactly the same stuff again because I noticed that Turkey already fired off their event. Why did Turkey fire off its event? I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. They did it for this. So they are unable to take advantage. Now, this is a case of do you know the events in advance or not? And I've argued that both ways. You know, I like Twilight Struggle. I think this game is, you can't play it effectively without knowing the cards that are coming, that are pre-programmed in the particular scenario that you're in, and you're supposed to. Just like you're supposed to memorize the deck in fucking Twilight Struggle to be able to play it. You know, it's weird, but you're supposed to. But I don't view that as absolutely debilitating. It's not like Paths of Glory, where you cannot play the game at all. Can you play this historically without knowing the cards? That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, like trying to use historical knowledge, I assumed I would get a shot at getting Aragon. I didn't assume I didn't assume absolutely, and I did work towards trying to incorporate Aragon. At least after that first era where I knew that I should be able to. But I'm trying to think, because I think the first time I played, I may have incorporated them. Just in that first period, like the first half deck, right? It's like 2 rounds, quarter decks, whatever you want to call them. Quarter deck would be better than round, because to me a round is a time around the table, not through the entire sequence of play, what every other fucking game calls a game turn. Right there, you saw the same kind of source of anger that I have towards the use of a plural pronoun for individual people in general. So I've been trying to think of, well, where can I find an example of something like that? Because I know that they happen. I know that I get that kind of fury at times. Well, right there you just saw it. It's in the use of an a non-standard term for a standard concept, right? Okay. So very quickly on this, because I really wanted to nail one of those down. Very quickly on it, there's a particular, so there are very, very particular and specialized uses where the use of they as a singular makes sense in English. It is not that I don't know the gender of the thing that I'm looking at. Okay? Things that you don't, things that you don't know the gender of are its. The can opener has no gender in our language. It. The cat, interesting place there, right? The cat's at the door. There's a cat at the door. They want to come in? No. He wants to come in, she wants to come in, maybe it wants to come in. Okay? Where do we use they? Where we don't even know what the specific object is. I saw someone I couldn't make out very well and they were stealing a loaf of bread. Right? I don't know if it's male or female. It's that same thing there. Very similar to the cat thing, right? It sounds very similar. Anyway, I would say in general, it's not like I'm not going to honor someone in that. Although, honestly, when do you use a pronoun when speaking to someone about themselves? Never. Hi, John. how is he doing? No. It's how are you doing? Completely gender-free, gender-neutral. So the only time that you're using pronouns is when conversing with other people about them. Again, you know. I don't know. The point about that is it really doesn't affect the person who holds to a specific pronoun or whatever. It's a mode of communication between two people outside that person. And only if, you know, I mean, it's only going to get back to the person who cares about it if someone runs back and tattles to them or something. Oh, they used your wrong pronoun in a discussion. What? And right there I used it correctly, because I don't know the gender of the person. The person doesn't even exist, right? It's not that yeah. And so here's the thing. The use of they as an indeterminate is this idea that, like, I don't know, that gender is completely controlled by the person's choices, right? Which, or you know, whatever, by their own perception. The person affected's perception. Well, look, that's not true with anything else, right? Like, I don't look at a cat and start using they because although I know that it's male or female sex-wise, I decide that I don't know which gender it identifies as, right? So to me, the default is how someone presents, you know? If I see someone who's presenting as female, you know, as a woman, because I don't even think female is the sex. If I see someone who's presenting as a woman, and I may or may not know what their sex is, I don't really care, I would make the assumption on their gender. And you're not supposed to assume people's gender. Well, yeah, okay, great. But I'm not going to assume which pronoun they're using either. You know, I'm not going to assume that they want they as their pronoun. I'm going to use the standard constructions of my language, right? And if I honestly can't tell, I will use it. The pronoun I choose for myself, because from my point of view, I don't really think that I fit under a gender, even though I'm almost, you know, like almost anybody who's like gender queer or anything would almost certainly say that there's a cis male, you know? I mean, just the way I act, the way I am, everything about me. I think. But I don't know. I remember some old friends of my first wife who, you know, the fact that I cross my legs, and I'm talking, you know, just one leg over the other, not like daintily crossing my ankles like a lady should or anything. The fact that I put one leg over the other when sitting sometimes, like, they were like, well, that's a very feminine thing to do. And I'm like, actually, no woman, no lady would do that, right? That is completely against the good manners and everything. But more than that, I also think, you know, well, my dad always does that. And my first wife pointed out, well, you know, it's kind of more of a European thing or something. This is when she was already like being corrupted into the camp of her old friends who didn't really like me. But yeah, their feeling was, well, none of the guys we know do that. Well, what the fuck, you know? It's because you like to manspread or something, I guess. Boy, it's been about another week. It's Sunday morning now. I did not go, yeah, we know that already. Anyway, I basically had a relapse, you know, all that coughing and everything, well, it just kept getting worse and worse. And pretty much this whole past week, I've been unable to make my way up here. And not sleeping all that much. And like before the first wave of the illness, I was sleeping throughout it. I did go out on Friday, and I was not feeling well enough to do so. But then, like all day yesterday, I felt a lot better. I don't know how I'm going to feel today. I know towards the end of yesterday, I was feeling a little sick again, you know, coughing and just having the problems again. Probably have to go shopping at some point, but let's try to acclimate ourselves to the game again. Remembering what happened, I had gotten myself in a situation where I had to roll back the game, and now I realize maybe I didn't have to, or very soon after I realized maybe I didn't have to, but I left it rolled back. Which means we may do the same exact things again. The reason I wanted to roll it back was I didn't want Turkey taking this event. But Turkey can't take an event. They already took an event. Spain can't take the event. They've already taken an event. I don't know. Maybe they skipped it. I don't know. I don't know who. Like, I think Spain took the second event. I don't remember. So fucking long ago. Declaration of Independence. Spain took that, yeah. And that caused the coup within a coup to show up. The two people who could take advantage of it, there are only two, right? No one else has gone revolutionary. Yeah, the two people who could take advantage of it, of Napoleon, are not going to get the option. So that makes Austria is planning on a war with Turkey. That's sort of their goal. How they're going to go about that may well be what I did previously. Here's the problem. I start looking at the events. I see Viva la Revolution. Okay. It gives you revolutionary regime. So I start looking at this. And I've completely, you know, I had forgotten what it did, right? I read it. It just doesn't settle in. Unlike most of these others, okay, you gain a stability when somebody researches it. But at the start of phase 3, you lose a stability if not at war. During phase 4, you gain 2 extra military. Okay. Phase 4 was income and upkeep. Did this tell me this? Did it? Because I don't think it did. No. No, it's not in the monarch power, at least. Maybe it's snuck in somewhere else. But it's not there. Phase 3 was the peace and rebels phase. It's not in there. You know, if I'm following that, like, you know, like a cookbook, right? And I hate having to do that. That's what I had to do with the Totaler Krieg games, right? The Axis Empire stuff. If I'm following that, don't expect me to fucking come over here and have to look at all the cards that, you know, I've got a little chip on. You know, there's just too much going on, too many things placed for there not to be references to every fucking thing that can cause you to operate differently in those phases. And it's not like there aren't some already, right? I wanted to look at this. So, I don't know. This is not complete enough, and all these cards, they're helpful, but even things like Age of Renaissance and the Axis Empires games, when there are other things that interfere in it, and they're kind of more general things, they will be referred to in the rules section where you collect the points or whatever, if there's modifiers for something. This is ridiculous. You know, especially since this is a tableau that is not sitting in front of every player. I mean, at least in Age of Renaissance, you have a sheet of paper that tells you what your things do. Here, you've got this set of cards that is guaranteed to be outside of somebody's view. You know, I mean, I almost feel like I can't go on because this is just impossible for me to cope with, right? I know that I will never be able to cope with this presentation of items. I have trouble remembering, no matter what the situation, opposed, solo, whatever, I have real trouble remembering when there's a whole bunch of little modifier type things all over the place and they're not sort of feeding into, you know, if there were references in the rules and I missed them, I wouldn't put that beyond me. But yeah, I also wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't put it beyond me to fuck that up, but I would learn my lesson and be able to say, you know what, like I've done with this game, I have to carefully go through this section of the rule book every time I do this. And I'm so busy being so careful about that that it's harder for me to pull in maybe some vague recollection that, yeah, there was something here. All right, I give up again. Maybe I make it back up, maybe I don't. I don't know. We can't quit here. You know, we've made it so far. Let's keep pressing on. It's not like we haven't made mistakes before. For the Austrians, I know what I did. I fired this off, got myself a stability, which is a pretty good move. I think I'll just do that. It didn't cost anything. It gets me some cubes in there. I think the Poles did the same thing, but I got to think about them. For Poles, it costs 1. Let me just make sure. Like, nobody's really interested in this. Viva la Revolution. Take military car, reforms, research revolutionary regime. Now, there's a reason you don't want revolutionary regime. I mean, other than that you lose stability. Gain 2 military, set stability to -3 in state revolution to revolutionary regime. See, you can't do this and this. So it's kind of, well, somebody's going to get stuck with one of those kind of crappy choices, right? And they'll probably take the one with some control. This will probably get ditched. But I don't see any real reason to do that. Yeah, we're gonna up our stability. Did I do so? I paid the counters, but I didn't move the thing. And that gets me to reduced unrest. I can still move 2 cubes over and cure 3 of my 5 current unrest. With tolerance, hey, maybe we got a shot of making it through. There is a fair chance that both this reign of terror and the coup within the coup will be in the same half or quarter deck, right? There's a 50-50 chance. And so that kind of prevents the French Revolution from fully happening anywhere, right? You need a revolutionary regime, you need this, and you need this to all kind of have this work, right? This doesn't create a revolutionary regime, does it? No. You have to already have a revolutionary regime in play. Wow. It makes the French Revolution as it occurred to be fairly unlikely in the game, to tell you the truth. Because there are other things that could get in the way too. Now, one card that like causes all kinds of chaos and, you know, gives you Napoleon at the end and everything would be too much. But I have to say, this doesn't, it feels like the historical situation is highly unlikely. Now, is that reasonable? Well, What it means is that something like the Napoleonic Wars really happening seems really, really unlikely. And do we have the P out there? We do not have the P out there. But it could also be in there as well, which means it could all be triggered, and the scoring for the Napoleonic Wars could happen in the same turn that happens. I'm trying to figure out what to do with the Turks. I know I was fiddling around with diplomacy type things, getting cubes in places. I have no admin cubes. I'm not sure. I think that's because of this, maybe? Well, I don't know what killed me my admin cubes. That event doesn't do it. Don't know. You know, maybe I fucked up and paid some to increase stability or something. But that wouldn't make sense. That would be a 0 had I done that. So I don't really know. But I'm going to leave it as is without any real ability to cope with that. I could cure my unrest. That would be of value. I could reorganize so I could do admin. I'm probably not terribly worried about Austria right now, but let's roll a die on how worried I am about Austria. Because the truth of the matter is, I know what Austria is going to do. What I don't know is how worried the Turks are about it. So on odd, they have an awareness of Austria and are really worried. Yeah, they're still worried about Austria, which means I kind of want to keep my military cubes to keep my options open. Otherwise, I would have spent them if I was simply not worried. So if I am worried, I may also not want to throw down the diplomatic cubes that I wanted. Now, what I found was that you can only place like a certain number of diplomatic cubes when you play this. Something that, again, is not in the cheat sheet. It is here, but what it means is I can't really use the cheat sheet except as a reference to tell me, hey, what can I do? I don't know what the fuck I can do right now, because sometimes I forget about an action that I have available. Sometimes I look at my cubes and I'm like, what am I going to do with these shits? I just don't have an answer to that. And looking there can help me. But no matter what, I think I have to look this up every time that I'm doing something, even if it's something I'm familiar with, because I probably won't know some of the little rules that are in there. So we were here on the Forge Alliance. No. So Forge Alliance requires a cube, right? Wait, what? To ally yourself, pay equal to half their target income, then take available alliance from your supply and place it on the target's capital along with a cube. So this would cost me 2, and I'd get a cube there. Doesn't guarantee me shit, and it would take away from my ability to do the admin. Fuck. I have this fucking huge handful of cards that I picked up. 3, 6, 7 cards. I got to use 2 of them. One of them goes in here, but that means I got to use 1 more. I could do a royal marriage, but that doesn't really help me, and you have to already have a cube to do a royal marriage. So I don't know. I don't know why I kept the royal marriage, but whatever. But what I was looking at was the influence cubes, and you can place as many, but no more than 2. I'm allowed to place 3, though. So if I place 3, what does subjugate do for me? I still have to get them to be an ally, right? Which means I have to do Forge Alliance, which is going to cost me 2 cubes, which is everything I have. So I don't end up getting any cards out of my hand, which is what I want to do. Is there anywhere I can subjugate? I doubt it. I don't have a vassal anymore, do I? Yes, I do have a vassal. Oh my. Okay. Algiers is a vassal. I could subjugate, this is not what I particularly want to do, but I could subjugate Algiers by getting rid of their base tax. I would have to get rid of 4 cubes to do that, assuming none of these are big. So you can't really tell with the vassal markers. Well, there would be 2 of them if they were big. Yeah, okay. I'd have to get rid of 4 cubes. I can only place 2. There goes that. Here, however, is bigger. So I would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cubes. I'm getting closer here. I can do this. Okay. So I would need 1, 2, 3, I said 7 cubes. I have, as I remember this was kind of on my mind, but I have the benign diplomats, wherever the fuck they are, which allow me to put 3 cubes in each area per influence action. So here's what's the problem. I'm going to have to spend a shitload of money. But so be it. Because I need a card, I need something for the subjugate. So I pay 1 cube. I have enough cubes in there. I said I need 7. That's 6 times 3 is 18 bucks, right? Let's get 6 more cubes out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That gives me enough cubes. Put a couple in here. Put 3 in Egypt. Put 1 here and 1 here. And now, although I've kind of bankrupted myself, which is definitely not what I want to do if I'm worried about an Austrian money, but I've set myself up so that I can play my last card. And you know, the idea of losing resources, having to discard a card, is just so extreme that I put aside the danger of an Austrian war. And look at these again. The coup within a coup is looking kind of good, actually, because it won't do shit. You gain 4 military and must discard your ruler and set your stability to -1. Okay, that's not great, but it's an increase in stability for most players. If France has revolutionary regime and negative, they may now gain a stability by replacing their ruler with Napoleon. If France does not do this, you may do it instead on the same terms. Nobody with revolutionary regime can do anything. You can then take a free declare war action. I think you can do this even though you are now... No. You would have to put a new ruler into play. Does France have a ruler? Yeah, they do. I have somebody shitty in play. Hey, it's Francois. Excellent. That's not looking that bad in terms of penalties paid. This one, you take a military reforms and play it. You must research revolutionary regime at a 1 military discount or lose 4 stability. Okay. Well, revolutionary regime is what color? I think it's military. Yeah. Which doesn't give you a revolutionary religion, right? You're simply like a regime based on those principles or something. I have no idea. But then you if you're really having trouble with unrest and with rebel troops within your area, you get rid of all of them and then you get new ones. Great. And if you don't have it, well, and then any opponents who don't have revolutionary regime pay a penalty for you playing this, which is pretty nasty. Discontented bourgeoisie, you have to pay a lot, or else you lose a stability and get unrest on all your large towns. Wow, that's painful. That's seriously painful, unless somebody's already up shit's creek. So, right now, this is the only event that doesn't look bad. And I may just do it because it doesn't look too bad. I suspect there will be another not so bad event coming into play for each other player, but like I can't imagine that. Well, I don't think that these are going to be as bad as the two that are face up there. But the last person to pick an event is going to have to take one of the bad ones. And then one of the bad ones will be floating around to affect everyone. So that's pretty nasty. Just about to do it. But now I'm not so sure. Oops. Because if France has the revolutionary regime idea, doesn't have to be a revolutionary regime, they can get Napoleon out of it. Now, Viva la Revolution would give me revolutionary regime at a 1 military discount. That means it would only cost me 4 to learn from these revolutionaries the idea. I don't have 4. But the advantage to this is, first of all, I'd get to control all those secondary events. I would end up with 2 unrest and 3 guys ready to siege those unrests in one of my areas. I'll have a lot of cubes to deal with that and can like throw together an army and deal with it. Might be able to do something else with an army. And I would be able to cause problems or help to the English and Austrians who are next to me. The Spaniards are also next to me, but they have the revolutionary regime. Now, what happens if I gain this? Gain 1 whenever an opponent researches the idea. So I would help Spain and Turkey with stability. At the start of phase 3, I'd lose this instant effect. Wow, that would set my religion to revolutionary as well. No, I definitely don't want to do that. Yeah, I think I'm going to do the coup within a coup just to get rid of it as the least bad of the events. Protect myself from having to take one of those shitty events. Poland is probably cursing themselves for not having done this because all the events may fall just to avoid the badness. France does this. They lose their ruler. They get a bunch of cubes and everything. Their stability is higher. It's a pretty good combination. Do I want to declare war on someone? Okay. Imperial border conflict. Owner vassalized Savoy. If we declare war on Spain, we would place ourselves in a position against a Spain that's kind of struggling, to tell you the truth. And might be able to get ourselves into a position where we win this. Another option would be to go to war for the Guinea coast. That would be the safer option. We're so far behind, we are going to declare war on Spain. Let's make the world even more violent and interesting. Actually, we're declaring war on Savoy, but it's the same thing. All right. We have to place a ruler to do that. Who do we want? This is the best total points. It's not what I really want, but it'll work. France has no allies in place. Spain does. Spain could bring Burgundy into the game. Burgundy's not really doing much for us. Where else? We've got an alliance here with Ferrara. Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to even bring that in. It's not. Well, no, it's adjacent to our realm. Yeah, we could throw it into the fight. I think those are my only alliances. Wait, we have an alliance with the Americans. Well, that doesn't really do us much good, and we have a ton of problems. Actually, an alliance with the Americans might help us because we could build troops there to deal with our overseas rebellion, which would join them, but they're going to help us put it down. Okay, so the Spaniards are going to call this. That gives us 1. And this, which I think is just these two. I'm not absolutely certain because the Burgundian alliance is so inheritance was so big that there are a fair amount of other things, but I don't see any that are uncovered right now. That gives me 2 more, so I get 3 of these that are free to build in the Spanish army. Now, they don't actually show up anywhere, but that brings Spain into the war. Okay. Can the HRE enter this? Holy fuck. I don't know, maybe. When a non-HRE, an imperial subject. Okay, what's an imperial subject? All realms whose capital is within is an imperial member. Yeah. Okay, so Spain, this is a vassal. I think it's still an imperial subject. PRs, NPRs, and vassal realms can be HRE members. Okay. When a non-HRE realm declares war on an imperial subject. Okay, so we're actually going to declare war on Spain. That brings the vassals into the war. I think. I don't know. Okay. But I don't know. I don't know if we're also declaring war on the vassal in that state. See, this would only matter in the HRE terms. So we're going to have to look up vassals. Vassal realm 4. That's not going to be very helpful. It's not going to do me any damn good, is it? See, the thing is, there would never be a need to declare war on a vassal on its own, because it automatically brings the state in, as far as I know. Okay, I really don't know where I'm going to even find this. It's not going to be in the declare war section. You cannot declare war on realms that you have a truce. NPR allies of PRs who don't reach this, members of peace. I'm not sure you can declare war on a vassal on its own. Like, I feel like you may declare war. You may not declare war on an ally or realm you have a truce with, on an NPR ally of a PR who has a truce, on HRE members at peace with the Emperor if the Emperor is your ally, has a truce with you. No, France and Austria have a truce. Austria has no truces. They weren't in the war. Yeah, I mean, clearly, it seems like I don't have to declare war on that. So then that brings the question of, by declaring war on Spain, am I declaring war on a vassal, and does that trigger the HRE defense? And if it does trigger the HRE defense, probably don't want to do this, because I think that forces, when a non-HRE declares on an imperial subject, if power is, they get a defensive CTA unless the subject is at war with the emperor. A PR emperor may accept such a CTA as if from an ally, and gets tagged. As long as the emperor is still at war, this ability will be active. If a PR emperor refuses the CTA, instead of the normal effects of it, they lose an imperial power. If the PR emperor's own capital is located, they may also activate the defend when a non-HRE realm declares war on them directly. Huh. So if Turkey goes to war with Austria, I don't think they've done that. Certainly not for a hell of a long time. Oh, okay. So I think that Austria will get a defending the HRE. Something moved here. I don't know what. Probably that bumped. That doesn't make sense, but okay. And these are like collateral effects that, man, yeah, we could roll it all back. Knowing these collateral effects, I don't want to be at war with Austria, damn it. So yes, we're rolling it back. We're rolling it back. France does not want to be at war with Austria and with Spain. Spain is an easy target. I would have taken Spain. Austria is not an easy target. Now, if Austria was at war with Turkey already, yeah, I would do it. So instead, we move that declaration of war over here. Unless we want to go to war with Denmark. And we get rid of this. We move that declaration of war over there, and now I will build some troops to go deal with that, because I don't have an army that I can move in and do anything with. I learned my lesson from the war with Mali. I have decided, we can't use this, plus I don't have a leader who has military capability. Maybe I should have played someone who did. I've decided to build 1 artillery and 5 infantry. If I take a naval move to here, I can shift everything down there and launch a 6-piece attack on there. It's not optimal. You know, it's a big-ass army, but remember, this is doubled. Oh, this is smaller. Huh. The hell with that. Give me $6 back. I'm only building a small army. Yeah, this is a smaller territory to take. So I would rather not build this huge army. I don't know if there's anything else I want to build. We move this on. I'm getting pretty fucking exhausted at this point. So, and you know, my illness is taking its toll. I start feeling feverish. My throat starts going. I'm going to pause and come back. I can't even make it around the table. In a little bit. There's one thing I have to do. I got to turn one of these off. Revolutionary ideologists. Put a thing in the Seine. Louis XVI can only become the new French ruler if Louis XV is the current ruler. No. Abolish feudalism. France can research revolutionary regime or constitutional monarchy for free. Wow. Well, I'm not going to have the opportunity, but constitutional monarchy seems like it would be really nice. That would be one option by the player who picks this. The other is seize them. France gains 2 victory points, 2 military, 4 unrest, and loses a stability. All right, well, that sounds like a good option. I bet you Spain's not gonna pick it, but I bet you England's gonna pick it just to avoid having, you know, once they see that France did one that doesn't really help them, there's a pretty good chance that the English will pick one too, just because maybe the discussion around the table about, you can totally imagine this, right? Poland passes on their opportunity. They're like, there's nothing there that helps me. And when it gets to France, and France is like, well, you know, there's nothing there that helps me, but oh boy, two of the three really would hurt me. And they say it out loud, right? You know, some of the times this kind of thing really pisses me off because I'm sitting there, you know, smirking to myself as, say, Austria with the, I had better pick, you know, one of those, and then someone blurts out something. And I feel kind of like that's the situation that happened. You know, that France is arguing why they did what they did or whatever aloud. I may roll a die for it, we'll see. That was one of my general principles, which may not work well in this game because of the placement of things like this, which is the player who notices, like if I notice something special during a player's turn, I'll take advantage of it, right? If I notice something that's not like trying to figure out what other people are doing or whatever, if I notice the fact that France, you know, during France's turn, that, hey, two of these three are bad, I'm probably going to get stuck with a bad one if I don't take this one now. But I'm not going to give that automatic bonus necessarily to someone later on, right? The someone later on, I went through this mental, you know, process to come to the conclusion that it was worth taking a card that's not all that good for me, even though, you know, because of some kind of situation that not everybody at the table might be aware of. So it would make a lot of sense for me to say, has Britain figured out what France figured out, right? And should they roll a die for it? It's in kind of a tricky position. They have two of these that they can still fire off. Remember, they want to do a revolutionary realms in their territories. But we have a lot of territories that are not revolutionary. Here, well, this is vassal. Vassals are less problematic than my own territory. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that I need to convert. Now, missionary is the cheapest way to convert things, but it has other advantages that I don't have to control everything to convert areas. So I'm looking at over here in the Canaries, because I don't want to lose that. I got to worry about that there. I can get rid of some unrest, and that could get, well, no, not with the troops there. Shit. No, that I'm going to have to get an actual army there, or else that's going to revolt and become part of the Americas, which maybe isn't that terrible, right? Like, victory points at the end of the game, what the hell are they? Final scoring happens in phase 5, in which the end of the game has been triggered as on 11. I'm just seeing, you know, what we get. So final scoring, okay, it's triggered when conditions apply. You don't automatically win the game by reaching those conditions. So it's not like there's an automatic victory. There's just an end of game condition that triggers this. So you get prestige equal to, yeah, you get for stuff. So I don't want to just lose things. I can't just say, well, I don't get prestige for this anymore. You know, I got nothing there. No, you want to have an empire at the end of the game, and that may be the majority of the points. So like Turkey with their huge score, or Austria or Poland might get their empire so trimmed in this last stage that they aren't going to be in the winning condition. I've been kind of looking at it as this little race over here on the track, but nah, there's other stuff. And Turkey is probably in the lead right now with their huge empire. Somewhat ramshackle though. Anyway, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to spend one administrative cube and put a red down here. You can kind of see why they chose, hey, let's limit it to the counter mix. I don't see it in terms of like any kind of reasonable connection to stuff, but man, this is getting pathological. I'm running out of, you know, little discs and stuff to use even, just because the religion type situation spreads so heavily. But something feels so wrong with like, oh, well, I'm going to spread it there. I'm going to take it from Turkey because they need it. You know, it just, that feels so obscene to me. There's a safe event out there. Let's roll a die and see if the English are aware of the French situation. They are not. So they're going to play as if the French did not, you know, the French didn't tip their hand. They picked something and maybe made non-committal answers to, why would you take that? I often see stuff like that where somebody, and sometimes it's just a stupid, you know, when they do eventually reveal, it just didn't work out and they give their argument for it and then, yeah, it's just as stupid as it seemed. Other times, they were holding back and, you know, they were able to pull off a coup, which I think the French kind of did there. Austria is going to get a chance as well. English in their own little bubble do raise troops. I build an extra infantry here to give me a little protection for my artillery, and I raise an infantry here and here. And not putting an army down, no need for it. They're just going to siege those cities, take them over. And I only have one cube to get rid of an unrest, but maybe I'll get lucky elsewhere. That got me completely around. I'm going to pause again while this stupid thing fails to charge. I had it set just like that, but it's just so crappy. I was playing this interesting little tightrope. I rolled the die. They're not considering this a vital concern. And who knows? You know, they may get another shot, right? Because there is one more card. But with Turkey, Turkey's already picked an event. Turkey could pass at any time. You know, Turkey's got a whole shitload of military cubes. They get 4 more. They're not going to pass this time, I assume. But this is sort of the, gosh, you know, what do? I think I can fiddle around one more turn. And you want to do that, right? You want to declare war at the last possible moment that you can and get everything done that you want to do during that war, right? You know, there's always the danger that people pass. So you're playing this weird sort of game where you're like trying to time the war so that you can get it away before the enemy passes, but and after they've used up as many of their resources as you know, you think that they're going to, just shit like that. You wanna play all that kind of game, but you also have to worry about the timer of, you know, what other players are doing and everything. It all feels very gamey. However, I can see the appeal of that kind of gaminess. On the other hand, it just feels so wrong of, wow, I've got a lot of stuff that I can do, but I can't declare war anymore on you because you passed. I have a marriage over here. I don't have a marriage in North Italy, so that's helping me towards the Napoleonic Wars points. I probably want to increase my stability and whatever, but I think the marriage, I know most of the diplomatic stuff requires you not be at war. Yeah, this one does not. Anyway, makes their choice on the man of the church. Taking the papacy, yeah, it would be worth victory points, etc. But I'm more worried about my internal affairs, etc. So I converted this to counter-reform. Now, I don't think there's any religious movement things. So Protestantism, counter-reform, those aren't happening very easily. But whatever. And that brings us to the Turks. Now the Turks spent their subjugate card. This was the plan. I feel like it's really iffy. The reason against it is this is Muslim. All of this. I'm revolutionary. I'm going to have a huge religious problem. However, maybe I get lucky. Maybe some of these expand. Maybe something good happens. Egypt's worth 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's actually a pretty good candidate for something that gets expanded into. But I've got a lot of territory that is not the same religion, essentially, as the Turks are. I don't want to spend my military cubes to quell unrest, to fight this quite yet. But yeah, you know, it's this, geez. Everybody feels like they're playing with fire. French launched their invasion here of, what the hell is this? Benin. Now, I was hoping I could move this ship, but it can't go far enough. So I shifted the ship from the Gulf of Lyon over, I guess. Do I need it? Do I need it? That's a good question. I'm only moving three over. Yeah. I don't know. This isn't. There's no good space for me to fight in. For not to fight, but to for my navies to be in terms of merchants. So I guess it doesn't make a difference. And this is going to be a simple attack. Nothing too fancy here. We get one hit. There are 2 enemies there, because they're doubled, if I recall correctly. We take a hit. We do 2 hits. And now there's only 1 enemy left. We take another hit. I think I spent the cube. I hope I did. I don't remember. I don't think I did. I don't think I did. Moves us here. Spain does not have an event available. What were they gonna do? I don't remember. Tends to build troops. Put some to do some sieges. This is a big city. It's going to be hard to siege. Can't just do it on 1 cube unless I move the army in, or built an artillery there, which I guess I could have done. I don't know. I'm running out of armies though, so that could be problematic. But I'm going to put down that revolt as well. I could throw an army into play there and get my king down there. Get a bunch more dice. Worth it or no? Probably worth it. Oh, fuck. Probably worth it. So that gets me, I mean, 2 to 1 odds is pretty good, but I could get unlucky and get pieced apart. All these extra dice, and we gotta get our royal in charge, which feels ridiculous to me. Putting a royal out in colonial territories. Okay. We killed them. Why am I switching dice this time and didn't last time? I don't know. Just weird. And we have succeeded in that. Now we're covering up the unrest, which is probably going to cause us problems. There's no good answer to this. Like, I can't, you know, if this was a counter, I could just have it shifted over a little. Instead, it's sitting there, and it's just problematic. I feel like the moment of inspiration, based on what the French did, is past, right? I'm not going to roll a die on an odd even, but I am going to do on a 1 or a 2 now. Basically, the realization could come about, but it's less likely than right after the French did what they did. Okay, so the English, again, are still not worried. However, we're kind of running out of actions, but we had sieges we want to do, which means we're going to reorg. We're going to move both of those, I think. Sounds good to me. Do I want to get rid of a couple of cards to draw a card? I don't know. Seems like a bad deal. We're back to Austria. I feel like the turn's not quite winding down. The wars haven't started for the most part. I mean, there's one big war that's going to happen between Austria and Turkey, but it hasn't started yet. Austria still probably feels pretty safe. Turkey's got a whole bunch of cubes that they're going to want to spend before they pass, but if they could just pull off a pass and say screw it, but they're not in great shape. So I feel like the Turks are probably going to play a pass. Anyway, things could wind down pretty quickly, though, at this point. If we look, yeah, France has some cubes. The other players, other than Turkey and Austria, who are going to be in the war, 2 people can not have passed and the turn still ends. The other people are all pretty low. Not terribly low, but I'm expecting France will still be going. I don't know if this is the halfway point, but there was a lot of rant. There was me having to reverse stuff, all kind of shit like that. So I guess it's time to send this one up. That was my plan anyway.